Welcome back to The Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. So we did that whole intro just now about the city of Florence trying to figure out its budget priorities amid a federal investigation into some allegations that money was diverted improperly. That is still an investigation. No one has been charged in that case. But sort of what put that story on my radar in the first place was a piece in Link NKY that Kenton Hornbeck wrote. Kenton joins me now in studio. Kenton is a reporter for Link NKY. You've been there for, what, about a year or so?
Since January 2022.
Oh, you've been there for a number of years
little
now.
while, yeah.
Sorry about that. That's about how long Link NKY's been going, right?
I started there on the first day in operation.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys are really digging into northern Kentucky, really focusing on reporting that lets people know of just sort of day-to-day activities going on in there. You had this write-up about the city of Florence figuring out its budget priorities with this FBI investigation going on. So I guess to start zooming out, what are some of the areas that the city of Florence is looking to spend money on? This is sort of what sets the tone for the next fiscal year.
Right. So Mayor Julie Metzger-Abachan highlighted 6 key areas in her budget address that she gave a few weeks ago. That's going to be infrastructure, public safety, economic development, quality of life, transparency, and safeguarding taxpayer dollars. And that's the big one. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that here coming up. But the budget's going to kick in on July 1st at the start of the new fiscal year. The current fiscal year ends June 30th. They're projected to conduct their second reading of their budget ordinance tonight, actually.
Yeah, okay. So, they're going over the readings and getting everything finalized. In those different categories, obviously, public safety always takes up a tremendous amount of a city's budget. In terms of the infrastructure, has she given any sort of indication on any particular projects or anything like that she's specifically got her eye on?
Well, Florence is one of the largest cities in northern Kentucky. It's actually the second largest city by population in northern Kentucky. They own a lot of roads in that city. She hasn't really detailed too many specific projects, but with a city of that size, it's going to require a lot of day-to-day maintenance. So she highlighted about a $30 million balance that's going to be one of the city's largest capital investment accounts, and that's year over year.
Yeah.
It's generally one of the largest things the city spends money on. Another thing that's kind of tangentially related is the Municipal Road Aid Fund, which is expected to grow to about $2.3 million at the start of this fiscal year.
Okay, and my memory of the way that her sort of report on the city's finances to council and to the city went, a fairly rosy picture painted.
Yeah, she commented that she felt like everything was going pretty well. There were some categories that they needed to focus on, obviously safeguarding taxpayer dollars. They felt like they addressed that, but I'm sure we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, overall, the city is growing its revenues. Its expenditures are rising a little bit as well. They're going to be about $58 million this next fiscal year. But overall, I think Florence, their city officials seem to say that their financial picture is doing pretty well.
Yeah, I've had some representatives from the city of Florence on the show to talk about some expansion that city has seen. That 7 Brew drive-through coffee. It's got a couple locations on Dixie Highway that's been a little bit frustrating for drivers to get through. But and speaking of Dixie Highway, I think Link had a piece somewhat recently about the state of Kentucky putting a road diet for Dixie Highway on pause. That's a state project, though. That wouldn't be a city thing.
Right, that's a state project. So I believe it's US 25 or Dixie Highway. That's owned by KYTC, the state of Kentucky. Actually, I talked to the mayor a couple weeks ago. She told me that she was going to come out against the project. I actually ended up writing that piece, publishing it a couple Fridays ago. Now the state has announced essentially that project is on pause or they're not going to pursue it. So that's been a win, I think, for Florence, Ellesmere, Erlanger, who were pretty skeptical, all those cities were, of this plan because of the way it was rolled out.
Interesting. Yeah, well, and there are certainly, driving challenges on Dixie Highway, especially through that part of Florence.
We've got
one or two, just a couple. We've got 1 or 2 people around here who have talked about how frustrating it is to try to get through. Again, certain areas, we wish them well, that 7 Brew coffee. It's an interesting concept that's clearly doing well, but also people lining up and the city's instituting penalties, I believe, for the business if they don't move people through that drive-through more quickly. And that's just one isolated case.
Absolutely. And funny enough, these coffee chain businesses like Dutch Bros, which is also going to go into Florence here within the year, and then you have a couple 7 Brews and really those kind of businesses, I didn't understand how popular they were throughout the United States.
Yeah.
My little brother loves to go to Seven Brew, but you see them, especially at the one in Newport by Newport Central Catholic High School. That backs up over onto Carruthers Lane, which is also a very heavily trafficked area in Newport. So the city of Florence, I think, is deciding, hey, we need to address this head on. The penalties for it will, of course, impact the business, and there's people who are unsure if that's the right way to go.
Yeah.
But as far as those businesses impacting traffic, I mean, anecdotally, I've seen it, and as well as others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of the city of Florence making budgetary plans, making a spending outline with a federal investigation going on, that sort of presents its own challenges for local leadership, right? Certain audits are still ongoing, but yet, the business of the city moves on, and they still have to make a plan for how they want to spend the money that they assume is all okay to spend.
Yeah, and absolutely. When we talk about the audit going on, I kind of want to circle back. So at the beginning of this year, they released a press release kind of out of nowhere saying, hey, we are requesting the FBI criminally investigate our financial department.
Because we found something.
They found something, and it had been going on through a number of years, but revenue diversions was the rationale given. We have not heard anything since that initial press release. Obviously, there's plenty of media organizations around the area who are going to continue to do reporting on that. But Mayor Metzger-Abdichan wanted to address some of the revenue diversions within the budget by doing some stuff such as hiring Fort Wright-based accounting firm Dean Dorton to conduct an independent risk assessment and controls audit, kind of keep their ducks in a row. It's like, hey, go ahead and look into this, see what we got going on here. And besides that, the city's updated several job descriptions within their finance department, updated new roles and the city's pay plan, and Finance Director Jason Lewis and Mayor Metzger-Abdichan both said at these budget meetings that they wanted to enhance financial controls, improve segregation of duties, and reduce organizational risk. So that's kind of where we're at the moment, but they definitely wanted to address the ongoing FBI investigation within their budget rollout.
And that stuff that you just described there, that's the transparency category that she said were spending priorities for the city?
Yes, totally.
Okay, so now, and we don't know anything more at this point, right? In terms of what the revenue diversion is, it's been stated that this happened before the mayor was in office. Before the current mayor was in office. It happened more than once, but that's kind of all we know. And revenue diversion just means what?
Well, I think revenue diversion means taking money out of one account and putting it into another without necessarily disclosing why you actually did this or if it was necessary or not.
Yeah, and so in terms of the specifics, we don't know if that's unauthorized contracts, if it's straight up embezzlement, like it could be any number of things. We don't know the specifics because it's a federal investigation. Yeah,
you're totally right. We don't know anything about the specifics of this at this time. We just know that there's been revenue diverted from one thing to another. Whether its nature is just unethical or criminal in nature, we don't really know that at this moment.
Yeah, and the mayor is promising to be transparent about it. There was a little bit in terms of some other structural changes that I know that the mayor said that they were making to the budget. They're separating out the IT budget from some larger administrative decisions, also creating a rentals fund to account for the business type activities that go on at parks and nature parks, event centers, and also the creation of an opioid abatement fund to take care of the national and state money that gets settled. I think that's a move to try to keep things looking or to be above board in the way that settlement money from various lawsuits when it comes to the opioid crisis, to make sure that's all getting spent the right way. Those might have been issues that were brewing in the run-up to this budget anyway, but certainly doing anything that they can to continue to be ethical and keep the city's finances above board is obviously a priority for the mayor.
Right, and she's focused on financial transparency. She said that many times, and I think she wants people to be under the impression that the city is going to continue to do everything it can to keep, like you said, their finances above board. With a large city or suburb, as you refer to it, within the introduction, with so many people there, you want everybody comfortable that they know they could trust you with their tax dollars.
Yeah. Kenton Hornbeck's a reporter for Link NKY. Kenton, you've been there since Link started. Again, really doing a good job of covering the day-to-day things going on in the city of in northern Kentucky. Focused on public interest in northern Kentucky is some of the wording on the publication's website. How's all that been going?
I think it's been going great, man. I really like my job. It's kind of interesting. When I started, I worked at my local newspaper, the Falmouth Outlook, which was a weekly print. It's a very small town, south northern Kentucky. I came up here and I was immediately thrown into the fire, like just going, are we good?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That were just immediately thrown into the fire. You kind of have to take your floaties off and learn to swim a little bit. So I've been covering business and economic development for the past 3 years. Earlier this year, I switched over to the Boone County specific beat. So that's why you may see a little more coverage of Florence. I've got to interview CEOs, politicians, startup founders. I got to ask the Kentucky governor, Andy Beshear, questions, Rand Paul questions. It's been very interesting. And, I went to Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, and I never thought so quickly out of school I'd be able to have journalistic access to so many things. And also, going on people's shows like yours, KET, NPR, that's all been a lot of fun. So I really enjoy doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, and you're a local guy, and now you get to sort of report on what you get to report on what the heartbeat and various things that are going on in the area. Link NKY has been going since 2022, plugging along, independent reporting on what's going on, and then also recently a merge or an acquisition with City Beat.
Yeah, we bought the independent publication City Beat. I believe it was back in November. They're more arts and culture focused. I think it's called an alternative weekly in the print world, but we've had them since November. We've integrated them into our Link day-to-day processes, and I think it's been going pretty well. We're still trying to find our footing within the Cincinnati market. There's a lot more publications over on this side of the river. Over in northern Kentucky, it's kind of just us and the NKY Tribune. Sometimes you got the TV stations coming over. You obviously have the Cincinnati Enquirer covering stuff over there. But for the most part, the market is not as competitive. I think with City Beat, we're still trying to find our footing on the food beat, whether that be the arts and culture beat, whether that be, delving into more some like political adjacent, some cultural stuff. And I think we're trying to ramp that back up, and that's been going pretty well, I think, so far.
That's great. Kenton Hornbeck is a reporter for Link NKY. Again, keeping tabs on the city of Florence with the budget stuff. We will also be watching how that federal investigation goes into some possibly ill-gotten gains in the city of Florence.